Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to start our project of exploratory data analysis. So here I am in Google Colab at colab.research.google.com and I will get started. Our first step is going to be to load in our dataset. So I've actually saved the URL of the dataset and I'll paste it in here for your reference. We are getting the dataset off of kaggle.com. This is a house prices dataset. It was made for a competition of advanced regression techniques, but we are going to use it for our exploratory data analysis. Now, I've also included for you this file. It's a CSV file. You can just find it at the end of this section, so in the source files. But this is just a link for your reference of where the dataset is actually from. All right, so I saved this under the name of housing_data.csv. All right, and we're going to use the Pandas library to read the CSV file and turn it into what's known as a Pandas data frame. So make sure you import the Pandas library here in your file here, your Colab. So this library is very commonly used because it has the data frame type, which creates a data set that is of a type data frame from any data like CSV files, text files, or JSON data, and more. The result of this is going to be a data frame, so I can call this my data frame. Then I can print out my data frame to see what I have. But note that currently we don't actually have this CSV file loaded into Google Colab, so you'll get this file not found error. So what we want to do is, before we actually read the CSV file, we have to load it into this project. So I'm going to import from google.colab the files module, then I'll call files.upload. This allows me to upload a file to this Google Colab instance. And if I run this code cell, I'll be prompted to choose a file from my computer. So go ahead and select that CSV file, housingdata.csv, and hit enter. And you're going to then save that file to your Colab, and you can then reference it by its name. So now if I run that second code cell, look at that. Now I can actually see a data frame version of my CSV file. Right, and here we can see all of the different columns, but some are hidden. So if you want to see the other columns, you can either visit this link to the data set, or you can also just open the CSV file in Google Sheets or in Excel or any program that works with CSV files. You can open it and check it out. You can also open it in a text editor, but just make sure you don't accidentally make any changes or that the editor doesn't make any changes on its own, because sometimes that can happen. That's why I do recommend opening CSV files in some kind of program that's specific for CSV files. All right, so here we can see we have several columns, and we're going to look at all of the columns in this course. We can get some of the important or even introductory parameters from this data frame already. For example, I can get the shape by grabbing that shape property. This will return for me the number of rows by the number of columns. I can also get info from my data frame with dataframe.info, but that is a function, so make sure you have these two parentheses. This will tell us all of the different columns we have. So look at this. We see that we have a Pandas data frame, we have a range index, and the data columns. In total, we have 81 columns, quite a few different features. And we have 1,460 entries, which means we have information about 1,460 different houses. And we have 81 features per house. Here we can see we have the index of the column, followed by the non-null count of the column, which means how many rows were not null. Then we have the data type of the column. So we have columns like ID, subclass, zoning class, lot frontage, lot area, street, alley, lot shape, condition, year built, as well as foundation, heating, kitchen, garage area, and sale price, sale condition, year sold, and many, many more. Now, some of these features are categorical, meaning they can be put into a category, like year sold. That's a category. And month sold, that's also a category, January, February, March. But other features are known as linear, so they are actually on a scale, like, for example, sale price. That is not some kind of categorical value like A or B. Sale price is a range So take note that there are different types of features. Some are categorical, some are linear. And we're going to look at how we can work with those features. So it's categorical and numerical is what they're typically called. And we're going to learn how we can work with both of those different types of features. You can get a hint as to which are numerical and which are categorical, because typically a numerical feature is going to have some kind of number, like an int or even a float, as its type, whereas a categorical feature is going to have an object as its type, typically. Also, a category can be an integer because that can be a label, like 0 for January, or 1 for February, 2 for March, etc., like months sold, where you have a number per month. So it's an int 64, yes, but it's still categorical. All right, and that is how we can load our data set into our project and convert it to a data frame. All right, coming up next, what we're going to do now that we have built in our data set, put it in here, we're going to learn how we can start to analyze the features of our data frame, starting with the main feature. Now, what is the main feature? Well, the main feature is going to be our sale price, because that is typically the target feature. We would use all the other features to find out sale price. That's a very common problem, or a very common question, is which features affect sale price. Now, we don't want to work with all 81 columns. That's quite a lot. So I'm actually going to just get some of the most interesting columns instead. So let's take our data frame and let's reassign it to equal only some of the columns that we want. So we can use, for example, numerical features. We can define a variable numerical features, and also we can define a variable categorical features. And this means we can select only the columns that we want to work with. So let's start with numerical features. Sale price we definitely want, because that is typically the target feature in a lot of questions, as well as a lot area. Let's also do overall quality and overall condition and year built. And let's also do first floor SF, square footage, as well as second floor square footage. And let's do bedroom above ground, so the number of bedrooms above ground. These are all numerical features because they're typically on a range. And we can include more as well, but these are the most interesting ones. Next, let's define, oh, we already have it, defined categorical features. Let's assign it a value. We can have MS zoning, so the zoning area, as well as lot shape. These are all features that are in my data frame. This is corresponding to one of the columns or one of the features in my data frame. I'm just choosing the most interesting ones, like neighborhood, as well as central air. Just make sure that you have the exact same capitalization and spelling for that exact column name. So I'm also going to choose sale condition, month sold, and year sold. Now you can actually choose more or fewer columns if you'd like, but these are just the ones that are most interesting. Then we can take our data frame and we can actually just change its assignment to be the numerical features plus the categorical features. So that means we're going to take our existing data frame and we're only going to get the rows, well, we're going to get all the rows, but only the columns of the numerical features and the categorical features that we want. All the other columns will be ignored. So I can then print out my data frame and I will see just that. So if I run this code cell, okay, we now have only 15 columns, and I can also print out dataframe.info and I'll see that as well. We will have now, look at that, only 15 columns to work with. That's just going to make our project a bit easier than working with 81 columns, which is quite a lot. All right, next step, we're going to start analyzing our data even further. We're going to learn how we can analyze that main feature, which is going to be sale price. So join me in the next lecture where we will continue our project.